Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put on board news. With us today for the first time ever, and you're going to love this company. We had Howie Honeyman, President CEO of Forward Water Technologies, trades in Canada under FWTC. Most of you won't know the story because they're very recently listed, but they're listed with a vengeance. Love the business. Here's what you need to know. The global water and wastewater treatment market is projected to grow from about 280 billion this year to 465 billion by 2028. Massive growth. Why is that? Treatment of water and wastewater is necessary naturally for mankind to meet the demand for water resources, not only for municipal and agricultural purposes, but also for critical industry purposes. Currently, over 40% of the global population resides in regions marked under critical water stress. Enter Forward Water Technologies. They're dedicated to commercializing their patented forward osmosis technology. What does that mean? You're going to find out. But what it translates into is it can reduce water consumption by as much as 90% in many industrial applications. More than just lip service, they're starting to move things along. They're collaborating with distribution partners to serve global opportunities in areas like the UK and Europe, including multiple ongoing trials that are pending. Additionally, they're working with their partner in India, Goldfinch Engineering, and they're actively engaged in business development in a couple of verticals, leachate management, which is one of, if not the most significant long-term recurring cost for landfill care, oil and gas support services, and the lithium extraction verticals, which is very interesting because the company, because the news the company put out recently, where they've signed non-disclosure agreements with two major lithium extraction companies. Now you know the story, you know the basics of it. Howard, let's talk about the specifics. Welcome to Agoracom.
Good, George. Thanks for having me here. It's great. Wonderful lead, and I would participate in that business every day.
Hey, it's easy to give a wonderful lead in when you guys are doing some pretty good stuff here. Before we dive deep into this, how big of a problem are you solving? And we're not just talking about the size of the market because I talked about the dollar side, but how big of a problem is that you're solving?
George, you know, you mentioned it or you touched on it in your intro there. So something that the humankind, the human race is facing now that we didn't a few decades ago, water scarcity. And water scarcity is really touching everybody. We used to think of it as a problem that they would have in, the deserts of Africa or what have you. But this is now happening in North America, South America. It's prevalent in Asia, and this is all due to the shifting nature of the climate, as well as some poor industrial practices of yesterday. So we're focused on this water scarcity issue, which is huge. So if you take India, it's got up to 20% of the population, but only 4% of the world's fresh water with diminishing aquifers. And that's why our partner in India is getting such great traction, because they're able to reclaim water, reuse it, and thus preserve the aquifer reservoirs for the population. So this is something we have to be really, really focused on. It's even gone to the extent where that reclaimed water is sellable. It's a chemical commodity that the factory down the street needs, or it's a bottleneck for other manufacturing. So you're solving water scarcity issues by reducing the demand on the sort of surface water reserves, and you're turning the waste product back into a sellable, reusable chemical product that can be used for further manufacturing of the stuff. Then let's be clear: we need these things as a society.
Until we can find a way for Mother Nature to dump more water on us, right? We're gonna have to do a lot more with the water that we're currently getting.
Water is used in manufacturing everything we use today, from light bulbs to smartphones, to things that we understand that water comes from, textile production, pharmaceuticals, fine chemical production. But we need all these things. And the supply of that fresh water is dwindling and under demand, and we need to preserve it. And that's what we're really excited about, being part of this solution.
So run us through, if you can, a layman's application of your technology, something that people at home would understand. Would it be an industrial plant and how it might work, an oil and gas situation? And you don't have to do a deep dive into the tech, but more just give us an idea for everyone at home to kind of get a sense of how you're, because a lot of us have the Brita water filters, but obviously you
Yeah.
guys, that's not you. So give us a layman's application.
So everybody we're in touch with, I think today, uses medical products, pharmaceuticals. They're important. In some cases, they're life-sustaining. In some cases, they help your shoulder heal from your tennis injury. Everything from the trivial to the incredibly important. So chemical or pharmaceutical manufacturers have production lines, and they use those to formulate pills and medicines. They have to wash those down in between every campaign because you can't contaminate one manufacturing process with another.
Right.
But at the same time, that washdown water can't go down the drain because you don't need the pharmaceutical ingredients making it into the mainstream drinking water.
Yeah. So what happens to it? Like before Forward Water walks in, what happens to it?
So what they do today is they put it on a truck after their manufacturing clean out process. They drive it to an incinerator, mix it with fuel oil, and burn it. So not only are you taking this,
I did not know that until this second.
well, you have to maintain the careful oversight of those pharmaceutical ingredients, and so that's what they do. They take something that's 99% water, 98% water, mix it with fuel oil, so they can incinerate it. It's expensive, as you can imagine. It's got a massive greenhouse gas footprint. What we've shown we can do, as an example, is come in, extract the vast majority, over 90%, 95% of the volume is fresh water, and that can go back into manufacturing at that plant, or it can go down the sewer for municipal treatment. We're very confident that is an acceptable pathway for it. And now instead of 100 cubic meters or 100 liters, you've got 1, maybe 2 liters that have to go for final incineration. And we think that's a great application. We're reducing carbon footprints.
That's a perfect example. See, a lot of us wouldn't have known that. We just
cheaper
take water for granted. We all take water for granted. Well, at least in North America, we do.
I think everywhere, a lot of places, water is underpriced regardless of the jurisdiction you're
water
looking
is
at.
water. We just think water is water. So let me ask you a devil's advocate question, Howie. Clearly, this problem, it's not as if this problem just arose overnight. It's been accelerating over time. It's starting to really get to a point that we better start paying attention to it. But it's been around. Why Forward Water? Why not Georgecom Water Technologies, who's been out there for the last 10 years, for example? What is that you guys do better? Why would pharmaceutical company A prefer, or why should they work with Forward Water versus Georgecom Water Tech?
So there's a lot of water is a very complex issue, right? And there's a lot of treatment technologies that are out there to deal with sort of certain levels of contamination, from lightly contaminated to extraordinarily highly contaminated. We sit right in the sweet spot, right where simple filtration ends, or other membrane technologies such as reverse osmosis, which has got good utility, but only has the ability to treat up to a certain level of contamination.
Okay.
Once you exceed that level, you need a new technology. Well, that's where we step in. We have a very proprietary membrane-driven process that relies on effectively creating a chemistry that allows us the equivalent of a filter pressure of over 3,200 psi. So that is high compressed gas pressure, and that's the driving force that we create with our chemical package that allows us to extract fresh water from these heavily contaminated waste streams. So it's what we're coming into the market with, something that people can't do except using very oblique approaches. That is very, standardized approaches. You burn it, you boil it, or you bury it. You send it down a disposal well where it's supposed to stay there for 5,000 years, and you just get rid of the water. We can do that, reclaim and clean water with a low energy footprint, and subsequently preserve the water at a lower cost. And so we're sitting in a place where people can't operate right now.
And by the way, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I always want to ask that question, right? And that's a masterful answer. That's great. Now let's talk about the opposite side. You've got some great tailwind behind you, because ESG, environmental sustainable governance, is becoming a very big part of this world where, Georgecom Industries may be a successful widget maker, been around for 50 years, no problems. Now you've got, forget about just government legislation. That's one thing. Now you've got investors, customers, all the constituents coming to Georgecom Widgets saying, hey, how do you guys make your widgets? How are you guys making sure that you reduce them? You can never eliminate 100%, or very rarely, but how do we make sure that GeorgeCom, you're not doing more damage to the environment in the way you produce things? Because I don't want to be your customer, or I don't want to be your investor. That's got to be a great tailwind for you, right, Howard? Because you now have companies that are compelled. They've got to comply. Doesn't matter how successful they are, right?
Yeah, it's a huge win for us in terms of this societal change in the way that people look at their investments, and in the way that the companies that they invest in behave. So it's huge. I came into this in 2015. It was a laboratory scale, and I was committed to developing a business that had good, solid financials. Did we have a value proposition that could be represented in dollars and cents? We have a very strong value proposition that can be represented in dollars and cents. But the other thing that became apparent, and I would say in the last 10 months, this has become really apparent to us, is companies are looking at us to help them augment their ESG profile. Can they come to us, and can we help them be better corporate citizens, and at the same time have a solid business proposition? And it turns out that we can do both, and we're taking advantage of that. And we've had clients come to us and say, listen, we know you're an emerging technology. We're willing to take the risk because the data looks really good. But even if it comes out even on a financial basis, we're still interested because we get the win on the side of the preservation of this resource. And
which may be more important than the ROI at the end of the day, because if GeorgeCom Widgets suddenly loses customers, loses investors, and loses industry, goodwill, my business could literally, if not completely evaporate, lose 50% of its value and revenue and all of that, because you've got constituents saying, hey, we just can't be a party, GeorgeCom Widgets. Thanks for the last 50 years, but we got to move on to Howie Widgets now because they're much more compliant than you are.
Yeah, so we're actually seeing that pull from the marketplace. I agree with you on the investor side. Those companies need to be have a good visibility on their investors and why their investors are making moves. The other thing that we're doing is we're trying to put together a guide and make sure companies understand, our customers understand, that if they involve our technology in their process, what is their win on an ESG profile sort of basis. So we're looking at that as well. It's becoming let's call it a new selling point, and it's really intriguing. And I got to say, at the end of the day, you get to the right place. You get a great business, but at the same time, I think there's general agreement in the broad community that we have to do a better job of preserving our whole planet resources. And
no argument.
We want to play a part in that.
Yeah. With you there. And what I liked about this is a private business-driven solution, which is important to investors, not just a government taxation-driven solution. I've always said I prefer the government to stay out, just set the rules, monitor, make sure it's happening, but let companies like Forward Water get it done. Now let's ask about the dollars and cents side, because there is an ROI, sure, a financial ROI. So with the ESG, that's big. I think that might even be bigger. But George, and I know there are different sizes of applications. There are different sizes of even industries, right? GeorgeCom Widgets may do this, oil and gas and Exxon may be doing that. But generally speaking, have you guys been able to figure out what the ROI is to to clients, and maybe you might have a couple of different verticals?
Yeah, so we've looked at a number of scales. So you're absolutely right. So scale. What's the scale of the problem? How much water needs to be treated on an ongoing, everyday basis? And we've centered around a couple of cases right now. The key case for us, we call it our 100 cubic meter per day sort of plant. So 100 tons of water a day, where we recover up to 70% of the water. So we're fairly conservative on our recovery basis.
But you think you can do 90%? But you're saying
we think 70. We can do 90%. So we're being conservative on this a little bit. And we focus on, okay, what's our payback? When will it be a cash positive investment for the adopting client? And we think it'll be somewhere in the area of 3 to 4 years, more closer to 3 than to 4. We're pretty confident in those numbers. But here's the important thing: our business model isn't about selling equipment. Our business model is selling a service. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the equipment on site, own it, and operate it ourselves, and provide a service to the end user. So they get the benefit of our technology without taking the risk, and we control the operations. So not only do they minimize risk for the client side, but it provides us with the ability to control the technology and preserve a contractual ongoing revenue stream. So we see this as
So you're not making a big ticket sale of $500,000 to George Com Widgets. You're saying, hey, George, here's our service, here's a solution, and it's
I'm going to make, yeah, I'm going to
uh,
make your problem go
$1,000 a
away.
month or something like that.
I'm going to make your problem go away. You're going to get the benefit of that problem going away and the ESG profile, because you'll be able to tell your local community that you're not taking water from the well anymore. You don't take any risk, because I'm assuming the risk, because I understand it. And then, but what I get is you sign up for a 5-year contract with a renewable, and that is an ongoing, consistent revenue stream for me that I can rely on. That's the way we're going to enter the market.
And this is the part where a lot of small cap companies stumble, because they've identified a problem, they've got a product, they think they can make it work, but then the marketing side, the execution side, the biz dev side, right, isn't successful, because let's face it, the world is competitive. They weren't just waiting for Ford Water to come out of the woodwork and open and embrace you with open arms. But you've already got an NDA with 2 major lithium extraction companies. You've already got potential trials coming up in the UK and Europe. So what kind of response are you getting from your pipeline when you're reaching out to George Com Widgets and ABC Pharmaceuticals or XYZ Technologies? It sounds like you're getting some real interesting looks.
Yeah. So we began as a waste treatment company, or a company that would handle wastewater from a supplier, and we're still confident that that's a really good business. The margins are really that we can involve are really important. But waste is one thing. When you come in and you can augment somebody else's business by driving their top line more than just reducing their bottom line expenses, and what we've tapped into is something called brine mining. That is the extraction or the isolation of minerals from really salty or mineralized waste, or not waste streams, process streams, as well as identify the fact that people use brines. You take the oil and gas industry, they use brines. So brines are liquid water materials that contain high levels of minerals that are used for certain purposes within the energy recovery industry. They need to manipulate those and change the concentration of them. So that's one. So we've seen that. We've been a lot of pull on that in the energy recovery base industry. But we're also looking at the extraction industry in the sense that there's really important minerals in some of those brines. And what they do now is they go in there and they try to pluck them out of that really dilute haystack. We found that if we concentrate the haystack by sucking water out of it, and the water goes back for reuse or used in the community, which is an additional bonus. But we can aid in their ability to isolate those key materials. Some of those key materials, most important one right now is lithium. There's a huge demand for lithium right now, and we're able to augment some of those processes and make those processes more efficient for some of the large producers.
They probably never even thought about a solution like that before, right?
Well, no, it's not part of their mindset. Their mindset is, okay, I've got a dilute brine with a little bit of lithium in it. How do I get that lithium out efficiently? And we came in and we said, what if you concentrated that lithium so it was really, a lot smaller volume to deal with? And we got a couple of them and sort of blinked at us and said, that's not a paradigm we've had to consider, right? And because just a few years ago, the only way you could get there was boiling that water or evaporating it. And if anybody who's boiled a pot of pasta knows how much energy has to go into boiling water. So that was never an option for those companies. And now we're turning that ahead.
That size is a nightmare.
Yeah. So now we're just turning that around, right? We're saying, no, we can do it cost effectively. And if we can do it cost effectively, how does that change your business? And the answer is, they're like, well, we need to go back and look at our entire process flows and see how that runs in. But we're getting the phone calls back, and that's what's really exciting. So I think we're really, yeah,
that's great. That's what you want to hear, right? Because the worst thing is, you got George Com Widgets on here, and they've got a great product, but no one's picking up the phone. No one's calling anybody back. So last question on the biz dev side. Look, the good news is the whole world needs to treat water better. The bad news is the whole world needs to treat water better. And there's that old saying, pardon the pun, you can't boil the ocean. which means you can't go after all of it. So what are you guys going to be focused on? It sounds like definitely you've got to really run down this lithium extraction vertical. But what are are there a couple of other verticals that you're going to really focus on at the
Yeah.
outset? And what are they?
So we're the mineral recovery or the brine mining, which includes lithium. We're gonna tackle that, focus on that. The other avenue we're going to pursue, because we do see interest there, is aiding and supporting the oil and gas industry. And I know the oil and gas industry's got some burdens associated with that. But oil and gas use is, while it will dwindle and it will go down, we're still going to need it for a long time.
Oh,
Well, we're going to
30, 40, 50 years. It's still going to be there.
we're going to help it make, be more efficient on its water side. And many people in the industry say, we don't recover, or the energy recovery business is really a water business that has a side product of oil and gas. There is an enormous amount of water being used in oil and gas recovery. We're going to work to make that more efficient, better managed, lower energy, and still maintain the benefits that we bring to the other industries. So we're going to support and make the old industries better and more efficient. And we're going to also work to enable new industries and allow them to be efficient when they come out of the gate. We're going to do both sides of the coin.
How much stronger are you now that you've gone public? So let's talk about that for a second. You went public, you raised some money. Talk to us about your cash, because now what you've got is cash resources. Let's talk about that. But you've also got availability to funds as well as you need it. Tell us about how much stronger that's made Forward Water, because as a private company, I don't care who you are, private companies, it's trickier, right? To have the cash resources necessary. How does that make you guys stronger? And what are you guys going to do with that money in 2022?
So it's a mindset change. Going public for us has been a really positive experience. It's given us the working capital we need to complete the commercialization. And that's something that we struggled with in our private version, where we were a technology company. Now, this additional cash access, working capital, it's given us the ability to become a solutions company. So we're going to deliver not a technology to our customers, but a solution to our customers. And that's a real mindset change. We've been able to resource out our sales and marketing activities, our visibility, to get highlight our ability to solve problems in the client's mind. And so it's a massive change for us. We're still very, very careful. One thing, after being private for 5 years and living from
you learn how to be efficient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we still have very humble offices, and we'll continue to do so. And we're going to focus on getting technology converted to a solution, and that solution into the field to solve problems. That last step, solving a client's problem, is our fundamental focus. And the resources we've put together from the IPO have allowed us to bring the forces to bear on that issue.
Howie, we could do a deep dive into Forward Water for the next 2 hours, because it's a fascinating space that you're in. It's fascinating technology, but I think it's important. It was important just to get this first, big picture information out there first, and not that boring way of, so Howie, tell us about Forward Technology. I think people.
No,
we've done.
I appreciate the discussion, and you're right. Yeah, my family hears the 2-hour speech every day. We don't need that right now. But yeah, we're just really excited to bring the technology all the way through to the full commercialization. And it will, George, I'm sure we'll have follow-up conversations and track our progress. Yeah, absolutely.
Lots. I think we're gonna have lots. And look, congratulations on Agoracom's a private company. I know what it takes to start, manage, grow, finance a private company, and that can be tricky sometimes. So congratulations on what you've accomplished there with Ford, and then getting the listing, raising the money, being a public company, and now having the resource necessary to move forward. Pardon the pun, but that's why I know we're going to have you on a lot. Awesome. It's a big deal, right? Water treatment, water management, ESG. These are not only not going away, they're not trends. They're not trendy. They are going to accelerate. There's no doubt about that. And you guys are at the forefront of that, and I can't wait to have you back, my friend.
I agree. They can't be trends. We don't have the time anymore. So yeah, I agree.
Well, thanks for joining us, Howie, especially right here just before Christmas. Appreciate that. And Happy New Year and happy holidays to your family, the whole Forward Water team, and can't wait to have you back as early as possible in January.
Right on, George, and happy holidays to you as well, man. It's all good.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to Howie Honeyman, President and CEO of Forward Water Technologies. It's a name that most of you will not recognize because it's a relatively new listing, which makes it great for you because you do your due diligence and find out more about the company on the ground floor. They trade in Canada under the stock symbol FWTC. If you believe in the future of wastewater management and what we need to do to preserve it, return it, and all of that, and ESG, then you've definitely got to do your due diligence. The way you do that is step one, get the company's profile page in Agoracom. We know there's a lot of moving parts here. It's a new technology. So we give you that good 1,000-foot view to get that good general knowledge about it. And then when you feel comfortable, you click right over to the Forward Water website, which you can see on the screen right in the frame around Howie there, and do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.